Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Storytellers. Last week we skipped a show because I was too busy getting ready for Terrificon. But I'm going to more than make up for it up to you this week because I have a great guest. One of the kings of crowdfunding, Mr. Jon Malin, is with us. So, hello, Jon.
Hello, Graham. Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's great to have you. Jon just launched a brand new project called Godlike, the Romulus Saga, and he's killing. He's got 1,067 backers and $117,445 raised in what, 2 days, 3 days?
Well, 3 days, I think it is. Yeah, but we raised the first $103,000 in the first 24 hours. So that's our big hoorah. So thank you to everyone that got in there and backed it. So
that's amazing. That is so great. And we're gonna show that that campaign and talk about it a bit. But first, let's get into the storytelling and the stuff that got you into this business. What was that thing for you? I assume as a kid that drew you to comics, A, and B, made you decide that, you know what, this is what I want to do.
All right. Do you have an hour? Like I tend to go long, but as quickly as I can.
That's good enough. Thank you, Jon.
You're welcome. I've always liked to draw. I didn't have a lot of focus when I was younger. My little brother got into Ninja Turtles, and he asked me to start drawing him Ninja Turtles. So I grabbed some of his coloring books. I learned how to draw Ninja Turtles. My older brother went into a gas station one day and shoplifted a huge stack of comic books. He almost got busted. The clerk came out and searched him, but my brother had just set them on top of the ice box. And when the clerk went back in, he grabbed the books, went home. When I came home from school, there were comics all over my floor. And it took that. I've seen comics before. I've seen comic rack before, comics at grocery stores. But when they were all on my floor and I just started kind of going through them, everything started clicking right then and there. I was like, this is a lot better than cartoons and then coloring books. I'm like, this is actually saying something to me, the details that were going on here. And I don't remember what the first comic I read was. Those memories are long gone, but it was somewhere in that mess. And but I gravitated towards, and I didn't understand why. When I started paying attention to the comic racks, I would just grab whatever kind of caught my eye. It didn't matter if it was a Spider-Man or a Batman or whatever it was. I would just grab it. But then I started realizing that I was attracted to a thing called a penciler. And so I was like, oh, this guy named Todd McFarlane, this guy named Rob Liefeld. So I'm from that 90s generation. Okay. And so those were the ones that really became my heroes, my idols, and my inspirations for getting into the industry. And obviously they ended up doing very well for themselves. But a lot of the guys that I was digging, like Wills Portasio, Jim Lee, like everybody went over and formed Image. And I was like, oh my God, like in my mind, it was like, all of my favorite artists, they all like each other and they're all going to form this. And I didn't realize that half the guys hated each other, but it's like, all right, cool, man. So maybe they had a certain level of respect for each other, but so I was like, great, man. And then I dropped Marvel cold turkey and I went right over there. And I was just like, yeah, I follow the artists. And that's where I just really, again, I understood, like, I care about Spider-Man as long as Todd McFarlane's drawing Spider-Man. I care about X-Force as long as Rob Liefeld is drawing X-Force. Jim Lee when he's doing X-Men. When they're gone, I there wasn't enough of a character there for me where I was like, this is where I have to be at. It was chasing that art. I was always
that's an anomaly too. Usually, most of the people follow the characters, and it's got to be a really quite a downslide when they change artists to make people drop that book. And you are
cold turkey.
You cold turkey, yeah. You didn't give a shit about the characters.
Didn't care.
It was all about the art.
Look, I care enough, right? Like I care about Spider-Man, and I always said, like, if I had an opportunity to do just whatever I wanted at Marvel, it would have been a Spider-Man and a Wolverine team up book. And that was just because I really loved what Todd did in, I think it was Perceptions when he did that Spider-Man story with Wolverine and Spider-Man teaming up. And I was like, yeah, this looks like fun. I'd like to draw this for, you know, a handful of years and see what happens. But a team up book would have been perfect. Then I could have just thrown in any variety of characters along the way. And, you know, that would have been probably my dream job. Other than like doing X-Men or something like that, but
right. So this is a question I like to ask. You know, there's a possibility that Marvel's going to start selling off these characters, you know, licensing them out. If you won the lottery and you could take, let's say Marvel or DC, and you could buy one of these characters or license one of these characters, what character would it be, and what would you do with it to make it your own or to make it interesting?
I don't think I'd take any of them. Like they're damaged goods, but also it would be a licensed property. So the amount of people like who, you know, it seemed like why I don't really care to go back to Marvel. It's like, who's the editor I have to deal with? Who's going to be in my way from doing something actually of worth with these characters?
All right, let me change the parameter here. You buying the character outright. You've won the lottery. You've won millions, and you say, hey, you know what? You guys are fucking up this character. I'm buying them from you. Is there something then?
I would probably take Spider-Man. If I had one character to walk away with, I'd probably walk away with Spider-Man and his surrounding characters, of course. You know,
right? You're buying the whole.
Yeah, I need Doc Ock. I need those guys.
Yeah. Okay. And do you have any idea what you would do with that character?
I'd make the greatest Spider-Man comic book of all time.
And there it is.
I would make it happen, you know, and like it manifest destiny. It would have to be great. You know, part of me is that, you know, I mean, he would be married because this is my Spider-Man. He was married to Mary Jane, and you know, but I also really appreciated what they did with Kingdom Come, which was putting everybody kind of off into the future and seeing, you know, what happens with that next kind of generation. And I think that's something that still could be done at Marvel and done very well in the right hands. You know, do I want to have him shooting out kids or whatnot? I don't know. I think just that marriage dynamic, even when I was a kid, was pretty interesting to me, you know, because it's like Mary Jane's going out dancing by herself in the clubs while, you know, Peter's out there, you know, fighting crime. And, you know, so it was just interesting because, you know, they were kind of touching on that, like, hey, you know, there's something that may not be quite right here, and hopefully all this kind of sticks together, you know, in terms of the relationship. And you know, Marvel just completely threw that right out the door, you know, and because of assuming that that young kid, you know, didn't care about this married man. Like, I can't relate to this married man. Well, I was reading that married man, you know, like. And again, of all the characters, the married guy is the one that, you know, 14-year-old Jon Malin would have been like, yeah, I'd like to do this story. You know, there's something here. But I was never in it so deep that, again, you know, when Todd was gone, I'm just like, that's what I'm here for. I'm here for the art. So,
right.
And I love the stories, you know, like Kingdom Come kept me in comic books because I was just really tired of good art. Not always great, because a lot of my favorite artists were kind of disappearing. Todd left Spawn. I left the moment he stopped drawing it. So when Greg Capullo, he just wasn't my cup of tea. You know, Rob Liefeld started becoming more and more, you know, distant in terms of his output. And it started becoming very easy for me to kind of just lose interest in comic books at that time. The stories, none of the characters at Wildstorm, Extreme, none of them really kind of grabbed me. Spawn did well. I mean, it's kind of established the relationship between Al Simmons and Wanda, like right off the bat. And it was dark. And again, like, that was probably the closest to a story that I gave any shits about. But again, without Todd, I'm just like, okay, out the door. And, but so it was just a lot of empty calories in terms of character developments, whatnot. But when I saw, and I'm not a big DC fan either. So when Kingdom Come came out, I loved the Alex Ross art, and I knew just enough about the characters to be like, this is actually good and meaningful. And I understood that it was kind of taking a jab at, you know, like I think the character was Magog. He was basically a stand-in for Cable. You know, it was the newer generation, the more violent generation, and then what the older generation was trying, you know, like, hey, our good guys are becoming almost as bad as our bad guys. And so I really liked the kind of theme that was going through there. So that kept me in comics, because I was like, okay, there is still there are still opportunities out there for a story to really kind of start catching on
and to connect with you.
Yeah. And I've also liked like the Red Star, that was where they're opening up the page and doing a lot more of these kind of big double page spread stuff, and that was around 2000, I guess. So but yeah, so there were a few gems along the way that really just kind of inspired me to stick around, and it was going to take me another 20 years to get good enough to pay respect to any of those. So
right.
here we are now, and I tell people recently, I'm like, I don't think my better days are behind me, and being work at Image and Marvel Comics. I think they're right here. I think they're like Godlike. My project is that's where I'm headed, and that's where I want to stay at. That's where I want to be at, and I want to make the absolute best comic book of my life. And then if I do 5-6 volumes of this and they're hot fucking fire, I love people just to be talking about that for the next 20-30 years. And something like Watchmen, can I do it? Who knows? But I want to do something important and visually interesting, and just basically it's me making the book for 14-year-old me and saying, all right, 14-year-old you, this is what you wanted. Let me make that book for you. And so this is my absolute best stab at that.
Well, there's nobody stopping you now. You have no gatekeepers. You're on your own, and it's completely doable. The stuff looks amazing. I have to tell you.
Thank you.
I love it. I think it looks really great. Raj, thank you for the $1.99 super sticker. Appreciate that. And our my professional buddy Dan Fragaboom is here. Thanks for the $1.99, buddy.
Yeah, I was just talking with Dan over on How to Draw Comics, Clayton Barton's channel. So if you guys want to hear Dan, we were just talking.
Very cool. So what was your first gig at Marvel?
No, my first gig was my first full comic book paid job was by Rob Liefeld. And I was working at Image Central. I was a production assistant. And Image was moving from Orange into, I think, Berkeley, San Francisco area. So everybody was losing their jobs. And before that, I had made contact. My roommate actually became the assistant for Rob. And before Image was dissolving there, Rob asked me if I wanted to do a book, called Nitrogen. And I was like, absolutely. I was, again, Rob, big hero of mine. Wanted to do a project. So I'm like, absolutely. So I started doing that. And, he was there when I needed him. And I'll never forget that about Rob. Rob is known for giving a lot of people opportunity. And, so I, even with my work, I try to pay that forward and offer more opportunities to people. So that's why, like, when I did Graveyard Shift, where I had the supplemental book, that was largely for newer creators to start making money.
Nice.
Get recognized. So, but yeah, so he had me do Nitrogen. And so my career in comics is hit and miss. So, I did that, but I ended up moving back to Michigan. I ended up going back into the workforce and keep sending out samples. And then I'd go, eventually got a hook with Marvel. They wanted me to do a Cable Deadpool issue. And it was only half, but I was like, all right. And then that turned into a New Warriors issue for 2 issues. And then it was done. Nothing for years. And then Rob contacted me around 2010, wanted to bring Youngblood back. This is right when I started developing Graveyard Shift with Mark Bolton. And so then we did 2 years on that. It's only, I don't know, eight issues, I think it was, something like that. And then I was right back in the workforce again. And, I was out there being a carpenter, building bridges and up on highways and dangling. So, so that's what I did. But so then I went back.
Like after the work was turned in, there was no offers for other projects?
Right. Yeah. So this happened again and again. So I would just go right back to the workforce because I have to have to pay my bills, you know? So, so graveyard shift finally got rolling. And what I would do is I would work during the summertime, and I'm in Michigan. So then we get laid off for the wintertime. And during my layoffs, I'd lock myself in this office right here, and I'd turn my little space heater up, and I'd just get drawing. And during that time, I would just send blindly out to editors, one of which was Tom Brevoort. And I'd been sending stuff to Tom Brevoort off and on for, I think, 10 years before that. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you know, but it was always like the bullshit answers, like, we're looking for something for you. Like, how long are you looking for something? And like, from my point of view, it's like, hey, man, if they got spandex or a cape, like, that's the project for me. Just put me on one of those, guys.
Right.
So it was very frustrating. There was no, the door was opened and then I was in. It was like the door is open, then you're right back out. Good luck to you, you know, and when we're desperate enough, we'll bring you back again. So, but eventually, 2016, maybe 15, yeah, 16, 17. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I got work from Marvel, from Tom Brevoort. He finally cracked, put me on Thunderbolts. We did like 10 issues there, or something like that. Then I did a couple of that bad Captain America time. I did like a little Secret Empire. Is that what it was called? Something like that. Just a little kind of handful of pages here and there, a couple of those lenticular covers. Then I end up going on to Cable, which I think is my best work at Marvel. And it just one of these areas where I felt like things just started kind of, for me artistically, started clicking. So, you know, it's just like, all right, now I'm really starting to feel like I know what I'm doing and where I'm at, what's happening. Because I mean, it's like when you're not drawing continuously and you're only getting jobs here or there, you know, just like, you know, you lose confidence in yourself. You're like, what am I doing wrong here? Like, how are other people getting work, and why do I keep getting shuffled right back out? So, you know,
and they can't be paying high rates either for that. If you're in and out, you know, you're stuck at a low rate.
Yeah. So, you know, I got paid, but you know, I wasn't like getting rich. I make more and better money now than I ever did in Marvel Comics. So,
no doubt about it.
Yeah. And, but that was just it, you know, so I get on Cable and I'm feeling good on there. But, you know, during my whole time at Marvel, this SJW stuff kind of starts creeping in. Tom Brevoort apparently had a problem with white people wearing dreadlocks because it was cultural appropriation. Alana Smith, who was my editor, didn't like women with cocked hips. They had me draw a fat girl in a girdle, and then she complained that the fat girl was too skinny. I'm like, you put her in a girdle. You know, like, anyways, it was crazy. It was crazy. So I had these little kind of back and forth things that were just annoying the hell out of me. And again, I'm coming from the workforce. I'm coming from construction. I don't care about this PC New York bullshit. Don't give a fuck about it. And I'm getting the weirdest notes. My mindset is back in 1990. Let's have, you know, Psylocke, Jim Lee Psylocke coming out of the fucking water, hair wet, looking fine as fuck. Like, that's my mindset. So anyways, I get on Cable, and then now something happens, like a cover comes out. I have an editorial switch. Bleeding Cool takes note of one of my covers that this character Blink has rather large boobs, and they don't like it. So it's if Jon Malin wants to stand out on the racks, he's certainly going to do it with it. Like, yes, exactly. I am trying to stand on the racks because nobody knows who the fuck I am, motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like, I want to make a name for myself. I'm going to do it with my art, and I'm going to make people notice me. And I did. I made the SJWs notice me. And almost immediately after that, now I get a phone call from my new editor. And they're telling me they're going to go back through and change, you know, all this artwork that was approved by the previous editor. And I'm like, well, that's bull because it was approved by the previous editor. And he's like, well, I'm going to check. And he checks with them. And my previous editor threw me under the bus, said, well, I saw it, but I didn't really approve it. It went into solicitations. It was approved. So anyway,
who was that editor that threw you under the bus?
Mark Panicio.
Oh,
so he threw me under the bus.
Okay.
Yeah, sadly, because while I worked for him, I thought he was probably the best editor I was working with. He wasn't.
I agree.
He wasn't nitpicking any of my shit, but he did not stand up for me whatsoever on that. He should have just said. He should have told this other editor to go fuck himself, and he didn't. So anyways, I said, all right, well, if you guys are going to change my work, because I had agreed to do 5 issues. I said, well, if you're going to change my work, I'm just going to agree. I'm going to finish my 5 issues. I'm going to walk, so I'm just like, I'm not even going to mess with this anymore. I'm getting tired of you guys. You're annoying. And I'm completely disillusioned with like comics at this point and the industry. And while I was working on Thunderbolts, Alana Smith posted a tweet that just really irked me. And it was that anyone who supports Trump, this is during the election, the 2016 election. And she's like, anyone that supports Trump, win or lose, we're going to remember who you are. Oh, and that fucking pissed me off. I'm like, I got friends that are Trump supporters, like conservatives, like, fuck you, bitch. And so anyways, and by the time I was on cable and this other shit started happening again, I was just livid, and I was done with it. So, I went out the door, and that's just it. And as fate would have it, people were watching Richard C. Meyer's channel, and they were saying, hey, man, you talk about Liefeld and a glowing light. Well, look at this guy over here doing cable. Maybe you should reach out to him. And then I had posted a tweet about how SJWs were similar to Nazis in terms of, taking a segment of the population, vilifying them, and, how that was a bad thing to do. And, just blame this group for all your fucking problems and everything's going to be better. Anyway, so that, I knew it had a sting to it, but I didn't know that by basically calling SJWs Nazis, which they had already been doing to everybody else. Right. All it took was flipping that mirror and the internet lit up. Like, I had some lady from Deep Space Nine asking for me to get fired, like someone from some actress. I'm like, what the fuck? And so it got really crazy really fast. And I the people in Confiscate started lighting up too. I started getting on streams, and then Richard C. Meyer contacted me about doing this book called Jawbreakers. And basically the conversation was, you're controversial, I'm controversial. If we are both together, we could probably make some noise, So, it took me a moment, because I said, I need the weekend kind of to think about this, let me think about it, because it was at that point in time, 2016, politics, everything was red fucking hot. I mean, just from that tweet, red fucking hot. And it was almost the same tweet that what's her name, Gina Carano made. Yeah,
I was going to point that out
3 or 4 months ago, and the exact same thing happened where they tried to crucify her. So even though it was a completely logical point, but it's just people are so politically charged. But in 2016, I knew that, because how politically charged Richard was, that if I get on board with this project, anything with comics, I'm pretty much gonna, I'm gonna be on the outs. Like, no one's gonna want to be touching me from here on out, at least for a handful of years. So I basically said, well, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go back to the workforce, pretty much. I'm ready to go back to construction, where people are sane and logical, and not a bunch of fucking man babies. Yeah. So
and they can tell you like it is.
I absolutely. They'll tell you how
I remember, like foremans and stuff. If you were fucking up, they told you flat out.
Yep.
They didn't whisper behind your back.
Right. Yeah. They weren't these fucking creeps, man.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so I'm like, all right, so I'm in, and but it was something, man, because we all knew, everyone knew that if we launched a crowdfund and this thing had only maybe made $1,000 or something like that, that we were going to be devoured by the comic book industry. They were going to look at that. And this wasn't just like, we thought we had their attention. We had their attention. We had Joe Quesada, the CCO of Marvel Comics, going into 3-day Twitter battles with us. So we had their fucking attention. But they would have buried us, and they would have said, ha ha, look, these guys only raised $1,000. We didn't. We blew the doors off, and we went up to almost $100,000, and it was only like when we got to $100,000, that the Antarctic Press deal was announced, which was that they were going to end up putting Jawbreakers into comic book stores. At that point, Mark Waid, the guy who wrote Kingdom Come, I like to say Alex Ross wrote it and Mark Waid just kind of got the credit because fuck Mark Waid. But, Mark Waid had to put his big fucking nose, his redheaded fucking nose into our business and interfere with our contract. So that ended up becoming this big lawsuit. But we were dumped by Antarctic Press publicly, humiliated. And that supercharged our campaign. So we went from $100,000 to over $400,000. And I think at that time, it was one of the largest comic book crowdfunds of all time. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty massive and embarrassing to the rest of the industry that all of a sudden they just turned Richard C. Meyer into a rock star. Mm-hmm. So he was getting invited by Joe Rogan. Which he passed because he I don't know what his excuse was. It was terrible though. But he did accept to go on to Comedy Central of all places where he would just be ripped to shreds. And then he was.
Oh,
so
geez.
Yeah.
The irony about that whole thing too is that if it weren't for the amount of money that was raised is what kind of ruined the lawsuit, because you couldn't prove there was damage because now you've got, you've raised $400,000. How is that damage?
Exactly. Yeah. I think it was more, and what I think that lawsuit served, and people don't seem to understand it, is what that lawsuit did and did successfully is said, don't fuck with us. So, we have not been fucked with as bad as we were fucked with in 2018. And I think that's thanks to that, because now people understand there is a possibility of a lawsuit, and that lawsuit can be very prolonged and very expensive. Mm-hmm. So because of that, I think a lot of people have chilled the fuck out in terms of what they're doing when they're coming at us and trying to cancel us from entering distribution. Like, stay the fuck out of our business, guys. So that opens the doors to get, for some people, not myself, I really don't care to at this time, but to get back into Diamond and to get back into the comic book shop. So when that happens, great. But you can thank that lawsuit for that, as far as I'm concerned. Now, some people may try, and it may have to go into lawsuit territory again. Mm-hmm. But it does make it a little bit more comfortable because of what people's shown. Now, then on the other hand, other people are always like, whenever someone has a problem, they're like, you should sue them. Like, didn't you guys learn? Like, lawsuits are long and expensive. Suing people every time you got a gripe is not necessarily the way to go. So, but I think that did serve a purpose. I think we all benefited from that, and we're stronger because of that lawsuit that went through.
Well,
even though it became a stalemate.
It makes the SJWs second guess what comes out of their mouth, because they used to just spout out stuff with impunity, thinking that there's no repercussions. The kind of stuff that they would say online is not the kind of thing you would say in a bar to somebody, because you'd be spitting out chiclets. Mm-hmm. And these guys just, these keyboard warriors, they throw down trash against you. They say things that aren't true. All the stuff with Comic-Gate, the things that the things they toss at us and try to make stick to our personalities is just, it's terrible.
Well, a great example of that is when I made that tweet, again, essentially the same tweet that Gina Carano made, but I did it, 2-3 years earlier. Bleeding Cool grabbed on that, and they tried to paint me as a white supremacist. Like, they went into my Thunderbolts run where I did a panel in the background which said Shell Beach, because there's a movie called Dark City, which Marvel was doing a storyline called Pleasant Hill, and which was basically, it was a town, and all these villains or whatever had all their minds kind of wiped, and they had new identities and whatnot, and it was basically along the lines of Dark City. So I having seen that movie, I wrote in the back, I was like, Shell Beach. I was like, wink. You guys remember that movie, Dark City? Wink. So anyways, so that's what I put Shell Beach back there. Completely harmless. And anyways, so after I had done that tweet, Bleeding Cool went back, a year and a half into when I was doing Thunderbolts, and by the way, look at this Shell Beach in the back. What does that mean? And then they try to tie me into a white supremacist website, which Richard Johnson knew about for some reason. And yeah. So, but what was really funny, it was one of the first videos I ever did on my channel. I should make that public again, because I think I privated everything a long time ago just to clean up my channel to try to build it at some point.
Sure.
But anyways, the first video I did, which was debunking that article, because I mean, God, I'm being called, essentially a white supremacist at this point because I did that one tweet, But the funny thing was the article on this white supremacist website was like, the Matrix is a white supremacist thing because of the red pill or something like that. And the Dark City is somehow lumped in with the Matrix. Like, that's all the article said. Like, it referenced the Matrix and Dark City. So Dark City on a white supremacist website must mean Jon Malin is a white supremacist. So that was essentially the stretch that Rich Johnson, this article is still publicly available, guys. Just type in Jon Malin, Nazi, whatever, bleeding cool. You'll find it. But anyways, the article he linked to, funny enough, that was, this accusation of me, being a white supremacist was the date on it. So excuse me, that's what I showed on my video was the date. When that video or that article went up on this website, it was like 3 or 4 months after my book had already came out. It didn't even exist when I made this book. And, but in the future, I must have been looking into the future that a white supremacist organization would eventually reference Dark City and therefore confirm that I'm a Nazi, because I also referenced Dark City.
Well, all you Nazis think the same.
Yeah.
So it's easy to draw that conclusion.
But yeah, so that's how they try to paint, what you're talking about. They try to paint you a certain way. And it's like, yeah, they actually try, Rich Johnson with no mercy tried to destroy my life. Mm-hmm. So, I will have a bone to pick with that guy for a very long time. And if we ever meet at a convention, I'm very hopeful that I will contain myself, because I'm still very upset by that.
Well, I'm hoping you won't, because that'll make even better video.
It might make a losing lawsuit, though. So,
that's true. That's true. We got to keep that in the back of our mind. I don't know what Phaser Face is saying here, and I thank you for the $2, sir. John, did you smooth over the yellow flash weirdness? Do you know what
I don't think I have to. There's no weirdness on my end. I was going to go on yellow flashes, and this is a story. So I was going to go on yellow flashes to launch Godlike right before, because I'm a dummy. I'm messing with MailChimp, and I uploaded all of my signups onto my MailChimp. But it didn't tag anybody. And I had like a 2,500 limit or something like that.
Right.
So I was like, oh my God, how am I going to find everybody in here? I only after. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, what I got to do is I got to clean this up. I got to get rid of all these names on here. I just delete everybody on here. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to re-upload these names when I have a clean slate. But it tells you, because when you delete, it says, are you sure you want to permanently delete? I'm like, yeah, I want to get rid of these things. I just want to get them off. And then I'm going to put these new email addresses for many of the same people back on. Right. Because I was like, why would they not let me re-upload? But they won't. So anyways, I found that out after I permanently deleted everybody. This put me in a huge panic. I don't know. I had about 2 hours to launch or something like that. So basically, I was freaking out. I'm calling Mark Polton, trying to find out if he's got any information about how I could fix this. And I'm on a private stream with another guy, Brewskis, something metal Brewskis, Matt Burke, I think his name is. Okay. But anyway, so I'm panicking. I'm like, does anyone know how I can fix this MailChimp? Because I got to get my mailing list people all these links. And Mark eventually came up with the solution, which was, hey, well, before you delete your MailChimp account to try to make a new MailChimp account, just make a new MailChimp account. So okay. So I just went, made a new MailChimp account, uploaded the email addresses. Everything went perfectly fine. So now to this day right now, I'm paying for 2 MailChimp accounts. But anyways, and they're expensive. So
yeah.
But before it was resolved, I canceled with Yellow Flash. I said, I can't do it. I got too much crazy going on. And our friend Ethan invited me on. So when you go on Yellow Flash's show, he has like 10 people. You know, I may know a couple of them, but he's running a show, and it's on these topics that aren't me. They will rarely be me. And meanwhile, Ethan is over here, and he's like, John, come on my show. And for me, it made sense because I'm still trying to make sure that my MailChimp is going to go out to all my backers when I launch this, because I'm still frazzled. And I'm like, all right, Ethan, I'll come on your show, because on his show, there'll be 10 people on there, and I know every one of them. I'm comfortable with every one of these guys. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go on Ethan's show, because if anything fucks up, these guys they'll extend me the time to say, okay, John, well, let's try to figure this out and make sure this is going as well as it can be for you. And that's exactly what happened, because I sent out the emails, and people in chat filling up. No email. So I'm starting to panic. This is exactly why I didn't go on Yellow Flashes. And I'm saying it right to the guys on the stream, like, guys, did you guys get the link? Could you guys check your emails? And blah, blah, blah. And they didn't have the link. And, you know, but through that, over, I don't know, a 5-minute period, now all of a sudden people are like, oh, I'm getting the link. But that's something that I can't just stop Yellow Flash's show, because I'm not that comfortable, you know, to say, hold on, guys, let's make this all about me for a minute. You know, so no, there's from my point of view, there is no weirdness, because I let Yellow Flash know ahead of time, like, I can't come on here. So if Yellow Flash feels differently, he hasn't said anything to me like about that. So
okay,
yeah. So
yeah,
I know he's mad at Ethan for launching my campaign, though, is what I understand from Ethan.
Yeah, because he left the green room.
Yeah, well, Yellow Flash always leaves the green.
Okay.
Yellow Flash has been in the green room, like, since Comicsgate has been formed. Like, Yellow Flash has been in the green room and left the green room almost as quickly as he's ever been in the green room. So, okay. I like, that's not like a news flash to me or anything like that. Like, that's just what he does. And, you know, more power to him. Whatever, he wants to come in or he wants to leave. I mean, no one's holding anybody to anything, but. No. He hasn't come up to me and been like, fuck you or anything like that. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, we're cool. I have no issues with Yellow Flash. I like him a lot.
Let me take care of a couple of super chats here. The Basil Clef 626 $4.99. Thank you, sir. Hi there, Graham and John. Just wanted to say thanks for including the Shanu in your current campaign, as I wasn't able to get it the first time around. Oh, excellent. Well, you are welcome, sir. Bark Lounger, thank you for the $5. Hey, Graham. Hey, John. Hails to Fraga as well. Were you a Cable fan when you landed the gig, or was there another character that you would have liked?
Oh, no, I've always been a Rob fan. Absolutely. So when I did Cable, like, the first thing I did was that Cable Deadpool issue, and that was like 12 pages of one issue. And the very first thing I got to draw was a double-page spread of Cable. And it was like old school Cable, big shoulder pads and guns blazing wildly. And I remember at that time, I was like, that's it. I like I could just not draw from here on out. And I could at least say I got to draw old school Cable blasting his guns away. So
fun stuff.
Yeah, I was to an extent satisfied.
Well, evidently, according to Sardie, you made the right choice. They talked about that dumb I'm Not Starfire comic for hours. You made the right decision.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, too. And Ethan kind of raised this point, too. Like, look, they're going to go through their topics. I'm going to be able to post my link in the chat, you know, as freely as I want, you know, and I'm grateful for that. But if I go on Ethan's, it's Ethan launches a project, anyone's project that he launches it like it's his own project. Like, he goes in there, he gets excited for it.
Yeah.
And he puts a hard push on it. And then, you know, there's the articles from time to time to pass the time, but it always comes back. I mean, you know, he's very good at that. It might as well be his own project. And that's why that I've said for a long time, you know, like, a lot of respect for Ethan, because he's never came up to me or anybody that I'm aware of and said, hey, how about I get a taste? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You know, and the agreement has always been, from my point of view, like, and I think from Ethan's as well, like, look, we contribute, we come on the show, and we try to make sure that you, Ethan, or any show we go on is going to be a good show for you guys and for your audience. Like, that's our part. And then the exchange is, you know, from time to time, should he decide to host us, you know, then he does. And you know, always grateful for that when he does decide to host. It's always
I couldn't agree more. Charlie's London is here. £4.99 English sterling. Thank you, Charlie's. Night, guys. Charlie? Great campaigns. I've backed both very proudly. God bless Comicsgate and congratulations. She's a sweetheart.
Yeah. She's fantastic. She wants to do fulfillment in the UK. we might need somebody, man. That VAT tax is getting cray. So
yes, it is. And the cost of just shipping over there, regardless of the VAT tax, is getting pretty damn high. And you don't want to lose backers, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That is for sure. So, hey, why don't we go take a look at this amazing campaign of yours?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Godlike, the Romulus Saga. Look, this is everything I ever wanted to do with comic books. You know, I'm writing it, I'm drawing it, so I have complete control to change direction. Again, following in, you know, for me, the footsteps of one of my heroes, Todd McFarlane, to write and draw your own book. You know, this is 10,000 years in the future. You know, the galactic wars are over, and the human race is basically, you know, exterminated. There's very few humans left, and they're all on this one distant world. And the enemy is there and ready to just wipe them out. So they need a hero, they need a champion. And so it you know, that's what this story is going to be about. But it's not just a nihilistic story. It's not just meant to be, hey, everything sucks. It's a superhero story. And there will be
hope, there's aspirational.
Yes.
Good.
There is definitely a ray of light. It's meant to. The character himself, he doesn't know who he is, and a lot of that is going to be kind of unraveled through these volumes. But people, when they find out who he kind of is stand-in for, he's a stand-in for a couple of characters actually.
I love the Kirby style armor.
Thank you. Yeah.
It just reeks of Kirby design,
absolutely.
But not. It's not like you stole it or anything like that.
I'd be happy to steal it too. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So, as we get into the far future, that's more the Kirby-esque designs in the outfits and things like that. But there's also a superhero age, you know, which is more modern time, where we'll see your more traditional superheroes. But the story actually spans essentially all of human history. So,
oh wow,
yeah. So I designed it.
Concept. This is high concept stuff.
Yeah, I designed it so if I ever get bored, I can always maneuver into another genre and kind of start, you know, digging in there and telling a story that can keep my interest and my audience's interest, and then I can return when the time is right to take on, you know, whatever that next challenge is. So
that's smart, because you know, you get burned out if you're doing the same type of stuff over and over.
Yeah.
You know, I try to do that with my books too, that each one's a different genre, but they're all interconnected. That way I stay fresh and interested, and I can always revisit if I need to.
Right. Yeah.
Can we play the video?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's do it.
Don't let me stop you.
I love that Euro club music.
Yeah. Everyone wants to break out their glow sticks and start grabbing their pacifier. So originally when I was making the trailer, I put in Rob Zombie had a when he was still part of White Zombie, had this kind of remix album, is Super Sexy Swinging Sounds.
Okay.
But he had this remix of More Human Than Human. And so I actually had that in as a placeholder. And then I was like, well, what if I could find something YouTube friendly? And so I started, I'm not a techno guy. I'm not a dance club guy or anything like that. But I was like, I wanted something with a nice beat like that. And through enough digging, I found a track, and then I threw it in there. I was like, perfect. So
I dig it. I think it's really cool. It makes me, I'm sitting here going like, this is the thing.
But man, it's something. And then like the Kirby stuff, like when I was younger, I was not like a Kirby guy. And it's only in the last year and a half that I really started doing, and people that kind of follow me online, that, they're aware, like, I started doing deep dives in the Kirby. I bought Commandi. I have the Eternals. I have Fourth World, which again, it's DC. It's never been my bag, but I just started, I got these omnibuses. And I'm like, okay, let me just go through here. Let me start seeing, what this is about. And the only thing I could really get into reading was Commandi. And then I realized, I'm like, every story is exactly like, it's all the same. I'm like, where's the groundbreaking storytelling going on here? For me, again, it could be that, I'm 20, 30, whatever years removed from when this stuff was coming out, even as a kid, so 80s, maybe, I don't know. So, but anyways, it was not really doing anything for me. And then like Cecil was like, those books were only, meant to be read and thrown away. And like, all right, well, in that deeper kind of story is where like, all right, well, I want to be sure when I do a story that it's this deeper, story.
Well, the Eternals is certainly, a deeper story.
And when and then when I started cracking open Eternals, I'm like, oh my God, like, that's where I was like, Kirby did it first.
That's the answer to all the questions. Kirby did it first.
I'm like, Kirby did it first. I'm like, so I got to be sure that I'm steering clear of some of these things here. But a lot of the designs of Kirby, the almost circuitry kind of Mayan or what are Incan, I guess, designs, that architecture and stuff like that. Was really starting to, influence me. And, I wanted to be sure that I was, trying to honor that with this character. And I remember when I was drawing, I was like, am I making this too complicated? But then I was thinking of someone like Kenneth Roquefort. And I was thinking about like the manga artists where they do all the mechs with all the little crazy details. And I'm like, those guys really have to suffer, I would imagine, to make these robots work in every different angle. So I'm like, if I put little different designs on here, and if I have to suffer a little bit to maintain consistency, whatever, I'll do it. So, but so that's like another challenge that I've kind of put on myself. And, just when I go on like other streams, I tend to, get a little hyperbolic. Like, people are saying this is the greatest story ever told next to the Bible. And so, but that for me is pressure, and when I'm calling out other artists and I'm saying, you better up your games, like, again, that's pressure for me. Cause I got to motivate myself. And if I'm going to throw smoke or, shit over here, and that means I better be bringing my best fucking game, because if anyone wants to step up to the plate and say, oh yeah, Malin, well, how about this? Then I say, oh fuck, so it's self-motivating when I'm calling other people out for me, just to say, all right, well, when I sit down and I draw, I better be sure I'm doing the damnedest job I can, because that benefits me. It benefits the backers, and with a little luck, maybe it will be the greatest story ever told next to the Bible. So,
always shoot for the top, Jon.
That's right. Yeah, because the writer bar, like that's also one of the motivators. Is I read from reading comics, just again, even back in the 90s, I'm like, I felt like the bar was so low that there you go. Thank you. That the writing bar is so low that I can at least do better than some of these other writers out there. I'm like, so all right, let me step up to the plate. Let me do this. So, again, that's part of the challenge as well. Like, let me step out here and do some heavy writing. And, look, if I fall short of my hyperbolic statement, then it still should be a good story. And it should still function better than most comics that are out there, especially, things that, largely are just disposable garbage these days. Which I felt like mostly, was like my Marvel run. I'm like, I get an opportunity to do Thunderbolts, and it's no fault of the writer Jim Zub. I think Jim Zub wanted to tell a much bolder story, but I think we were just running a project just for that money to come in and have something for that Secret Empire run to bounce off of during that time. But when I was on there, I realized very quickly we're treading water. I'm like, why don't we have Citizen V? Oh, well, Citizen V is a code name being used by Sunspot, Robert, I can't remember his name, Acosta or something like that, who used to be in the New Mutants. But now he's like a director. Like, why doesn't he use his own code name of Sunspot? Why does he have to be Citizen V? You're going to relaunch Thunderbolts, and you're going to be paying homage to the original Thunderbolts run with, Bagley. And they even brought Bagley back for, I believe, one of the covers on there, if not a couple of them. And it's like, people are wanting a big fucking reveal. Like, of the internet chatter, it's like, are these guys really going to be who they are? What's the secret? What's going to be the big? There was none. There was absolutely nothing. No one, like, it was just filler. And these were just kind of done in one stories right until we got to that Secret Empire tie-in issue. And then it was just like, oh, you guys ready for more nonsense filler? Okay, here's more nonsense filler.
You know what's great about this new publishing paradigm is that a guy like you who hasn't had a lot of experience writing decides he wants to write his own comic. And the only one that's going to judge you is your backers. If you give them something that they enjoy, and they'll come back for more. But there's no gatekeepers. There's no editors saying you can't do that. You need to tell this kind of story. You can go off in any way you want. And the only judge is the backers.
Yeah.
And I think that is so freeing, and it's just wonderful. I mean, I'm happier than I've been I've been in this business 38 years, and I'm happier than I've ever been.
Yeah, absolutely, man. To be able to break free and do essentially what we want. Again, thanks to them, is such a great opportunity. And I don't want to look back on it in 5 years, because you think about the Image guys, and they had everybody's attention. They all could have been doing like the Watchmen level story and thrown that with their art and just, annihilated, the competition. They had the possibility, the opportunity. That's where they fell short, was the writing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, great writing is the key to it all. I mean, even mediocre art can live in great writing, but the other way around, then you get Green Lantern, Green Arrow.
Yeah.
And the only reason we talk about that series these days is because of Neil Adams' artwork. They were just horrible stories, over the top polemics. They're really hard to read, and even in the day they were hard to read. But now it's like they're impossible. But we remember it because of Neil Adams' artwork. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I don't want to look back 5 years from now and say, hey, I could have wrote something. I could have took my shot. And so that's what I'm going to do. Like, but, my writing, I'm more like with Graveyard Shift, even like I've script doctored, so Mark would come up. Well, we would both come up with a plot. Mark would kind of give it a pass, and then I would give it a pass over top of that. And over 3 or 4 different versions, eventually it would solidify into what it became. But so I'm not completely ignorant to, the art of storytelling. But there's no studying, there's no school, under that. It's just what I think kind of feels like.
Excuse me.
So, writing for me a little bit musical, like I just see it like verse chorus bridge, you know, maybe another verse, maybe and then rap with the strong chorus type deal. You know, and working from macro to micro, like that's kind of the big thing. Like I got a beginning, I got a middle, I got an end, and now I got to fill in the gaps here to make these things connect. And now I have opportunities between these 2 points to build something up in here and keep going like a fractal until I have something that may have been originally like, look, this could have been 3 issues, but now I'm building this out and this is becoming more interesting in here. So now here, these become 3 issues. Then we got another 3 issues, and so on. Yeah, in terms of the highs and the lows and just what is, what flows well from beginning to end, also to have a point of emotional impact, not just gratuitous violence, which I love. But to have those kind of cinematic moments, where you're building into a scene or into a double page spread and letting that unleash, or where you're piling up your panels and becoming, making it feel almost claustrophobic again for, maybe a splash or double page splash. And, that art of storytelling is, what really interests me, and, what I think I will be able to accomplish more so as a writer, writing my own project. And that way I can do any turn I want and not have to feel like I'm stepping on somebody's toes by saying, I'd like to go this way with this now. So yeah, very freeing, very liberating.
So have you ever written for another artist to draw?
Yep. So yeah, I with Graveyard Shift. So I wrote Ruiner. That's what people will be getting in the mail here, probably next week.
Okay.
That's one of the backup stories for the supplemental, but also like, again, like I'm script doctoring pretty much everything. So
the reason I asked that is that when you write for yourself, when you're the artist, what is your process like? Do you write like Harvey Kurtzman, where you lay out the story and then you write your dialogue off to the side, or do you actually sit down and type out a script that you will later go back and draw?
Rough dialogue. I would probably like to get to a point where I'm doing much more kind of Marvel style, but because it's something that I want it to be very great, it's just kind of general ideas of what's being said. I'm not worried about the final words right now. I'm more so worried that are the panels are going to work panel to panel with the panel descriptions, whatnot, and that the story can breathe. But with everything I've done, every book I've worked on, through Graveyard Shift, I've sat down with like Eric, the letterer. I also bring in the writers for the final approach when we're doing these books. And so when we do the lettering, like this is something that's also very important to me. It's like the word balloons become part of the composition. They're not just there. They can't be there. So tangents are still important, and but they have to be used to balance out that kind of negative space that's in there. So I had the writers come in and I say, hey, we need more words here. So it's going to be your job to come up with a new set of words that aren't just filler, that there should be some soul, some thought put into it to where it makes sense. But now we're using it to either to expand or condense these areas for word balloons. And as we're going through, like, I love the lettering phase because you can just brush things up right there, and you can look at the emotion of a character versus what's being written, which may not exactly sync up exactly. You may find a new moment in there that didn't exist, and you say, what might look good right there? One of those circle things with a big question mark blowing through it, like a explosive word balloon. A nice graphic. I'm getting better with sound effects and like the ideas that I want expressed through sound effects, and things like narration. I've talked about a little bit when we did this kind of Pit retrospective. We were going through on Joe Sontag's channel, like every page of Pit basically, and people that watch it, they'll know what I'm saying, but like the narration captions, like a lot of times it'll have like these are like orange, but then they'll have like a gradient and it'll go to like pure white on the inside. And for me, I think that, again, through my experience now by sitting in with the lettering process, I've kind of better developed all my thoughts on lettering and like what works and what doesn't. And why I don't like those things is it's such a drastic change from the gradient. So, you know, a subtle gradient is a lot better than to go from a dark to a white just for a sound effect or a narration caption. You know, just make that gradient. You know, I prefer vertical gradients, you know, but a red to a lighter red. It doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to go red, orange, yellow, white, you know, just for that. Right. Yeah. So just nice, subtle gradients tend to work very well. And, you know, but again, even placement on those, you know, like in Graveyard Shift Volume 2, I think it was, we had just a great big open space on this double page spread of Castle Dracula shooting out this laser beam. And I was like, hey, what if we had Doom? Like, what if we write it as big as we can on here? You know, so you know, Eric would expand. I'd be like, more. And then we get this big, huge Doom on there. And, you know, just that's kind of the fun and the art, you know, of comic book making, to be able to have so much influence from, you know, from where I sit, you know, from everything from the plot to the script, my art or other people's art, the colors. I work on everything, and then right through to the lettering, and then pre-press. I don't know shit about it. I hand it off and I say, please make this work. And then, you know, our guy pretty much does. So
this is how I work when I write for myself. Is I sketch it out on one side, and on the other side, I have a template that I made. And then I just put in, as you said, basic dialogue, which I will go back and refine later on once the finished page is done. Because that way I can either add some character bits to it, or think of a better ways to phrase and the impact of the dialogue, that kind of stuff. And I love that process of going back and rethinking my original thoughts to shine them up and make it better, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And when the lettering goes on, as you said, that's when comics become comics. You know, that's what makes it real, is when the lettering is on there and the sound effects and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm totally in love with the art form, man. Like, you know, everything except pre-press. You know, like that's what I love every bit, you know. And one of the early comics that like got me early was, and I'm not a big JR fan. I appreciate his work.
Really,
he does good stuff. Yeah. But back then he did Iron Man, and he did one issue that I happened to have, and I don't remember who the writer was, but it was more so the writer, but it was the combination of the writer and the art. And what it was the cover said, "In space, no one can hear you die," or something like that. And Iron Man doing like a repulsor blast. He was in outer space. That was the cover. And I love that cover. I actually redrew that cover in school. And I remember they had that hanging up like in the hallways, you know? So it was like, yay, my first swipe. And I'm being praised for it. Awesome. But in the story, you know, Iron Man is on the space station and he's out of breath. Now, again, I'm a kid when I'm reading this, and you know, but he's running out of oxygen, and the whole thing is about he needs to get to this one spot, and he's just kind of floating through the space station. Is all his power is drained out. He has no oxygen left. And he's just trying to get to where he hits this one button. And when he hits that button, it's going to turn on like the air filters, whatever. And then like he's going to be able to breathe again. But I just remember that experience, like that for some reason stuck with me, because I almost felt like from panel to panel, like he still ain't there yet. You know, and I started to be like, is he, like, I got that. I remember having that kind of feeling. I was like, is he going to make it? Like, you know, and that feeling, you know, just like when you watch a good TV show or something like that, you're feeling that suspense. Like, you know, that was something that set with me early, and it may have been like kind of chasing the dragon. I don't know if I got many experiences like that, all the way up till, Kingdom Come coming back out and reminding me that it still was, something that was out there that I think that is achievable.
Yeah, that falls right into my tenets of storytelling: clarity, dynamics, and immersion.
Mm.
If you accomplish those three, you've got your reader hooked. And the key is immersion. And that means immersing that reader into that story so that for the half an hour it takes them to read it or whatever, they don't realize that they got bills to pay or that somebody's knocking on the door. They are so locked in, and that is so rare for that to happen. And when it does, it's magic,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Big fan, man. Big fan of all that stuff.
John or Graham, how important is it for an artist writer to have a channel? It seems like it's too busy and a distraction almost from the actual work.
Do you want to answer, or I'll answer?
Go ahead.
For crowdfunding and the system that we have right now, it's everything. It's to be able to get directly in contact and to have back and forth communication this simply. Again, when I was a young guy, young artist, I would have happily paid $5 or more. And if the internet existed to be able to super chat or have a conversation or pick the brain of any of a multitude of artists and say, hey, what about this? What do you think about that? So I think that artist, the creator fan relationship is, huge because of YouTube. I think that's so important. But also we wouldn't be able to drive the sales like we do without that communication as well. But, it's not just, you can't just fire up a channel and start selling, it's video after video after video of actually having conversation with your fans, getting to know who the people are in the chat. And, actually building up some form of authentic relationship with as many as you can, just even though it's still at a distance and whatnot, but you want people to feel comfortable with you, hopefully like you, and then, get their attention with your work as well. And then hopefully they'll back that work.
Yeah. I would also add that, a lot of times, a lot of backers are backing you and not the project because they like you. They like your personality. They like the show or the content that you're giving them for free on YouTube. And so they'll back you. And if you have a good product, then they're more likely to return, and they like you at the same time. So that's a win-win. We're dealing in what I call boutique comics, where we're making it for us, first off, and for you, secondly. Nobody else is in between that relationship. And that's what makes it so special is the connection you have as a backer to the creators, your favorite creators, unlike any other way. I mean, you try, talking to John Byrne when he was at Marvel, it wasn't going to happen. But, you talk to Jon Malin or EVS or me or any other guys, our emails are out there, we're on our shows, and people right here in the chat room are talking to us right now. We're accessible. And that's, I think, huge.
Yeah. And is it a distraction from the work? Absolutely. It's a distraction from the work, but to make that work possible and to make that work pay the bills, we have to be out here. This is the work as well. So, we are now YouTubers / comic book artists. So
it's part of the promotional package that you have to, you have to beat these guys at their own game. Marvel and DC, they sell stuff on the basis of their characters. When a book launches for 1 month, they might put an ad in Diamond or something like that, and that's it. That's the push that it gets, and they just expect people to see it and to buy it. Whereas us, we're trying to sell new concepts, and that's a hurdle that you have to get over by constantly being out there and trying to, connect with somebody, on some level for the project you're trying to sell to them. And that's hard work, and it goes on 24/7 for the entire length of the campaign.
Yeah. And so far I've found, everything we've done to be absolutely rewarding. And, that's why I encourage, people to, do that and do what we're doing. Build up your networks. Right now channels may be at, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, whatever. But as time goes on, that number gets higher and higher. I mean, 3 years ago, I would have said 1,000, 2,000, 5,000. But now, everyone has the possibility of hitting up that 10,000 number. Or more. You can go through the roof, if you're a very charismatic person. And to this day, people they have the opportunity to blow up hugely. But really, what we've done is we built up, it ended up being a network, the idea of a network. And, so when we get people that have 10,000 people, subscribers on their channels at a time, that network keeps getting stronger and stronger. So, like we have one EVS right now. We need to get like 5 EVSs, but those, to find somebody that has that kind of charisma, that kind of talent, ability, it's extremely difficult. But there are people that have gone out there. They've done very well for themselves. People like Yellow Flash, who, I hope and I'll be supporting his book when that comes out. Tug as well. He ended up launching a book. He's done very well. So yeah, we need as many of these people as possible that are, but also they should have networks out there and, help launch other people's projects, people that they want to do well. And they do. But we need a bunch of these people. And right now we're at the 1,000, 2,000 or 5,000, these smaller channels, whatever. We need to get them 10,000. And then, as more years go by, we all need to be at 30,000. And then we will become at some point pretty self-sufficient. So there will still be, people that are just building up their channels, whatever. But as the years go by, and hopefully it's not many years. I mean, I'm almost at, I might be at 9,000 now. I'm at a high 8,000. So, and I've been doing this for about, I guess, 3 years. So, if we can do 8,000 in 3 years, or, if I can get to 12, I think Cecil's at 13,000, 14,000.
Wow.
And that's like a great number to be at. So, but we need as many channels hitting those kind of numbers as possible.
So everybody there in the chat room, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, what are you waiting for? Get on there, hit the like button and subscribe.
Yeah, and everybody will be stronger for that, because, I've said it before, if something happens to Ethan, if you just, for whatever reason, God forbid, but if you drop dead of a heart attack tomorrow, that puts this whole thing in a form of jeopardy. So while everybody is still relatively young and healthy, we should build up and make the network stronger and stronger. So 10,000 should be like a goal now, but years from now, a handful of years from now, we should be looking at 20,000 or even 15,000. 15,000 is probably a good strong number. But keep building the network out, and we need to get as many of these campaigns up into the $100,000 range. That's kind of the goal. That 6-figure mark. Like once we hit there, that's like, all right, now things are really starting to happen for this creator. And then that creator can go on and, host his own channel with his own show and with 10 other people, just like Ethan has, can have 10 other people. Right. Each creator can have 10 people brought on there. So everyone gets their own little circles that help each other out. And then, you got 100,000, you get 100,000, you get 100,000.
Robert Romano is correct. Comicsgate is mutual promotion.
Yeah. We're better for helping people out. From top to bottom. And so I try to do what I view as my part. I do Comicsgate Presents, and I'd like Comicsgate creators come on there, promote their projects, and so my audience gets to see what they're doing. And surprisingly, a lot of people come on there and it's just boring. So and that's what's really sad is you have an opportunity to come on someone's channel. You have to, it's your job to, as the creator of your project, to excite people about your project. And, people just kind of come in there and, they say their pitch and they're like, why didn't I make any money? And it's like, it's like, well, you were not exciting. You didn't sound very excited about your project. You didn't have much to say about your project, so these are all things that need to be worked on too. But, step one for everybody is always, I tell them, you got to build your channel up. If you want to crowdfund, build your channel up, learn how to talk to an audience and learn how to bring other people on your channel. That builds your network up. And then you go on their channel and now you're grabbing audience from each other. But do creative, original content, for sure. Like Ethan used to really put the Star Wars on there, and that blew his channel up, like right through the roof. So did Yellow Flash. So did Tug. Then Tug kind of went off and did, like now he covers like Well, it was Vic Mignogna. Him and Yellow Flash did that. But now Tug kind of talks like Johnny Depp. So, but even though that has no interest for me whatsoever, there are people that are interested in what's going on with Johnny Depp, and they watch Tug. So, and then Tug introduces them to comic books.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like, now, okay, you want to support your buddy Tug? Get a comic book. So, and then, eventually from that audience, some of those people may trickle over into the rest of Comicsgate. And then it's our job, for the ones, like I say, with Ethan, because Ethan can't talk to everybody. So when they trickle down to us, it's our job to give them slippers, give them a cigar, put a robe on them, make them feel comfortable. And hopefully they find a channel where they can kind of settle into and become part of, the audience, or multiple channels.
You forgot bourbon.
Yeah, give them a little drink.
You forgot the bourbon with the cigar. But,
right.
I get the point.
Yeah. So why we have the smaller channels, it's easier for us to talk to 5 new people that are coming on. Whereas someone like Ethan may have, it definitely at a time would be like, 500 new subscribers in a week.
Right.
So, or even Anna. Anna still has a really large channel. I think she passed 200,000 now. So
holy cow.
Yeah. So, that's what I'm saying. And like the importance of networking out and being able to talk to other people and, and hopefully have authentic relationships with them. You don't want to just be like, Anna's got a big channel. I hope she likes me.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, those things just build up, over time. Like, we didn't know who Anna was. I didn't know who Anna was. Cecil might have known who Anna was, but, like the whole Jack show thing that started with, Cecil and I just kind of bullshitting. Then Kelsey kind of got thrown in the mix one day. Then he was gone because he's never around very long. Then Anna kind of was in the chat and Cecil invited her in and she was crazy. But it was like, wow, we got to get Anna and Kelsey to meet. And then when Anna and Kelsey met, like that episode was just like, Kelsey was 3 sheets of the wind. He was drunk and obnoxious and it was so great. But that's how the whole Jack show thing formed.
Is that still up? Is that still watchable?
I think somewhere there's a link for it somewhere. I'm not sure. I know clips show up from time to time, but I think Cecil, it might have been on Cecil's channel at that time. So, Cecil probably has a link for it. Okay. But it was a lot of fun and everybody was a lot drunker back then, except me. So, but those guys would be like, that was what was great about it was like, Kelsey for sure was showing up every time 3 sheets of the wind. Cecil was always drunk, but always manageable. He could always run a show and be completely blitzed. And Anna would be there and sometimes she'd be drinking, whatever, but she was always great for finding out something weird about her. She's always very open about herself and all her oddities. So, that's how that kind of worked out. And it became a show, became pretty popular. It still is pretty popular. So, we're getting, 600, 700 people watching at a time. But yeah, great networking tool. We have our own little show. It just grew up organically. We didn't plan it. It just happened. And so, the chat named it and someone in the chat said, hey, it's the Jack show or something like that. Cause they put John, Anna, Cecil, Kelsey and just made it work. It's the Jack show. Yeah.
That's where it comes from. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's also the order in which we stream. So it'll go from my channel to Anna's to Cecil to Kelsey. So like, but that's again, like that's one of the great things that just happened from being on YouTube.
Yeah.
Chat will have a great idea. Hey, Jack show. And then boom. We are the Jack show.
That's how our professional show started. A bunch of us we started talking and it just became a round robin thing. And now we have each week it goes to the next guy, and it's a lot of fun. You have to make up a new topic every week. Whoever's hosting it makes up a topic and off we run.
Yep. And I would tell anybody in the chat, right? So if you're not charismatic or whatnot, one of the best things to do is surround yourself with people that are. So, find, Cecil, Anna, these guys are way more, sociable than I am. I'm good for a joke jab here and there. Even Kelsey is really funny, but me by myself, I can get a little dry. So, unless I'm in rant mode. When I'm in rant mode, then it gets pretty interesting. Or when we talk about art or creation and stuff like that, I have a lot more to say. But
right.
In just a general social situation, I'm usually happy to just kind of disappear.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, so find yourself a crew of people, 5-6 people that are funny, that you like to hang around, and boom, you throw together that many people. Someone is going to have something to say, especially when the conversation starts to dry up. Hey, someone's got a new take on something you guys talked about an hour ago, and then it spins back around. So, or chat steers the conversation. So,
definitely.
Yeah. Knowing your business says, "Shut up, Malin, I'm talking late." And that was like, I think that was a quote from the very first time Kelsey was drunk, and he was hitting on Anna so hard. It was hilarious, man. Like, another one of the clips was like, she was talking about something about Star Wars, and Kelsey of all people was trying to play it cool, but he was drunk, and he's like, "I don't know, I'm not a nerd." And it's the greatest clip of all time because he's got a TV on the background, and it's like Netflix, and it's the menu screen, and he was watching Star Trek. It's like, yeah, he was trying to play it up like he was cooler than everybody thought. Like, no, I'm not a nerd, and like, oh my god, it's a classic now. So
that's classic nerd. Oh, that's hysterical.
Yeah, so he's very much a nerd. But he was trying to get with Anna, so he's trying to lay it on thick for her. And
do a refresh here, see if we got any backers. We did.
All right.
Look at beautiful. That. What, almost $500.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So we have a stretch goal. It's for 120. We're gonna, what is that? That's a new trading card, I believe.
Let's see. Do you have that posted?
Yep, it should be right at the bottom. Oh. And yeah, so
here we go.
120 for the trading card, and then the 125 is what I hope people will get more interested in. We're gonna host another art contest. This one, I really want to drive the financial reward into first place. So we're going to start it at 500. We'll have another stretch goal along the way, in between probably more trading cards or prints or page extensions, whatever. We'll throw in another one of these down the way, where we'll add in another $500 for first place. Basically, I want to get first place to be like $3,000 or $4,000 for first place. So second and third place may get a page, to split between them. But I really wanted to make something that would just be a little bit more interesting for people. Like, hey, look at Comicsgate. They're dropping down some serious change for an art contest. And the last one had a stipulation that like you couldn't have had worked for the mainstream or whatnot. This one is anyone can do it. It's just got to be black and white. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter. It can be Graham can enter it. Graham can enter it and try to win, for what are $3,000 or $4,000, maybe more. We'll see where we go with this campaign in the long run. But yeah, I'm going to leave it open for everyone, and I'll bring in a panel of judges so the decision won't be solely mine, just like I did on the last time. But I think that'd be great. I think that'd be a great little treat for somebody to win, $3,000 or $4,000 ultimately. Hopefully, if we get up there high enough.
Yeah.
So that'd be a lot of fun for people. So
I like that. That's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, and then we have this supplemental book too, which is
talk about that.
This is going to be more stories that kind of orbit the main story. So that's actually going to be a Western story, and this guy is going to kill a lot of Indians. So, but I tell people, I'm like, well, they drew first blood in this story, so don't worry about it. They get exactly what they deserve. And but he's tapped into this power source, which is also called the Romulus. So Romulus is a title, but it's also a power source. So he's tapped into it. That's why he's got the the 24 Frank Miller arrows in his back. So
is that this one here? Von Klaus and Mark Poulton?
Yeah, Von Klaus and Mark Poulton will do the writing for the stories on there. So So with Mark's story, it's a plot from me, and then Mark's going to go in there, script it, and then again, I may go over there and do a little doctoring as it goes through. But this is going to be a pretty cool story. And then if we ever get around to doing a variant or something like that, once Von gets his kind of story solidified, then we'll probably make the variant cover, something reflective of his story. So,
that sounds cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah. And yeah, if you guys look at the preview art on here as well, you know, for the text there, it says he's not even over 9,000 yet. So that's a reference to Dragon Ball Z for, you know, all the weeb kids out there. Vegeta, one of the, at the time, I think he was a bad guy. I'm not sure. Ultimately, I'm not a huge Dragon Ball Z fan, but there's a character named Vegeta, and they used to have these power meters attached to their eye. It'd tell you how powerful somebody is. And so when I think it was Goku becomes like this Super Saiyan or something like that, he's like, he's over 9,000, and he breaks his power meter because he's so pissed. But 9,000 was like, it became a meme. So you'd find memes of Vegeta crushing that and screaming, he's over 9,000. So anyways, so when you go over 9,000, you're becoming something more powerful. So when with our look here for the Romulus, this is his early stage armor. So as he becomes more powerful, the idea is that more is going to be added on there until he's fully godlike. He's just a baby right now. Just a baby. So
I love that shot. I love the perspective. And I like the color scheme, the primary colors too. It really harkens back to comics.
Yeah, the red and the blue specifically with the Romulus, like that, like even in that first promo image, you can see it's very flat. Like I wanted to get something that was very close, so you get that kind of eye bounce, like, you know, old Spider-Man or old Superman.
Yeah,
with the costuming. Keep those kind of pure reds and pure blues, and don't try to over render it too much. So that's really what I was kind of aiming for. And you know, so I'm working with the colorist, and we'll see if we can zero that in as we keep going. So he goes a little dark, as you can see on the page right below that. So
this one,
yeah, just the reds are a little bit darker, whatever. It's not that high contrast, because once you start getting a little too dark, again, that pop starts to disappear. So you know, you kind of got to balance it out, and you say, well, am I getting enough of it? And you know, we'll see with this. So I may have them go in and tweak it by the time we get the print. But also down below, you know, I love that it's the blue on the left, and then it's the oranges on the right. It's
the warm colors and the blues.
Yeah, it's the two opposing sides of the color wheel. You know, very dynamic palette. And yeah, so but this is to kind of show, this double page spread here is to kind of show you there on the left we're looking at the superhero age, and then on the right we're actually looking further back in time. So that's why we have a Roman soldier there, and he's got a falcon. Why? Because I needed something in that space to kill negative space, and I was like, what if I gave him a falcon? So there he goes. He's got a pet falcon. And Dan Frega was actually talking on Clayton Barton's stream. So if any of you guys were paying attention on that stream, I'm going to carry over with this information, because he was talking about this little lighting effect that I can't remember who started it offhand, but if you see that little reflection on the Roman's shoulder, it would be a little gleam of light, but then you put this kind of half moon shape in there as well. Right here? Yeah, that's it. Yep. Yeah. So that's like from like Extreme Studios. Like I think it was Jeff Masuda or something like that was one of the first guys to kind of do that. And it was such a different looking gleam that like that was something that just stuck with me. So like even when I did like Nitrogen, like years later, like that effect had already, people had like at Extreme, they've already had done it, duplicated it. It ran kind of its course, I guess, and then it was done. Like. And then I went to Nitrogen, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that little kind of Jeff Masuda swoop. And then all the way right to now, here I am again on, 30 years from that, and here I am doing the little Jeff Masuda thing, because who's using it? Who's doing it? Not many people.
Are you working digitally or totally digitally?
Yep. Yeah. So when I did Youngblood, I switched from doing pencils, and I just ended up spending so much more time in post-production, just fixing all my little mistakes and being able to flip the image and be like, ooh, that looks terrible. That by the time I'd be done doing the post-production part of it, I would look at the original artboard and I'd be like, if anyone ever bought this thing, I would be embarrassed, because they'd know all my dark, dirty secrets. Like, so I just got rid of the art boards. I mean, they're around, but I'm just like, I don't really have interest in selling that stuff. I've rarely sold any actual boards from that run. But anyways, so I was just like, I would save a lot more time if I just started drawing full time in here. So I actually just drew on a tablet, like an Intuos tablet for the longest time. So that means I had that disconnect. I'm looking at the screen, but drawing down here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So only in the last, I don't know, a couple of years did I actually buy like a Wacom Mobile Studio Pro. Like, so now I actually draw on a screen.
Yeah.
So like that was like relearning again back to how to draw with this big fat pencil on a computer screen. Even with
what
that
program
little,
do you use?
Clip Paint Studio used to be called Manga Studio.
Yep.
So yeah, originally it was like I started with like Photoshop, obviously back in the early 2000s, but with this I liked it because it just kind of stripped everything down. But now it's bulky, like it's just almost another Photoshop now. So, but people are telling me to get on like iPad and just use Procreate or something.
That's what I do.
So, yeah. So
I used Procreate for Expendables Go to Hell, the Shinu, and Alien Alamo.
Oh wow, yeah. So there you go. There's another one. Like, just that you're doing that makes me feel a little bit more like maybe I'll be checking that out. Because like my Mobile Studio Pro, like my screen, like it's actually kind of common defect. The battery expands and it ejects your screen. So my screen right now is halfway ejected.
Oh,
so
wow.
Yeah. So like you can see it. And it's just like, it's not how it's supposed to be. So one day it might blow up. I don't know.
There's an iPad Pro lap board that you can buy. It was crowdfunded, actually, the creation of it. And this thing is awesome. It's got legs on all four sides, so you could stand it up vertically or horizontally. The iPad sits right in there so that everything is flat. Like when you're drawing on your lap on your iPad, you get to the edge and you're falling off. Now you've got this big space around here, so that if you're making a line or something like that, your hand is resting on something the whole way.
Interesting.
Yeah, and there's a grip, so it's carryable, and you can put your Apple Pencil right in there. It's fantastic.
Yeah, if you have a photo or anything of that setup,
I can do better than that. I'll show it to you.
Okay, look at that. Yeah, because the Switch is probably coming sooner than later.
Okay.
Okay, now where do you get this at?
I got it online. Let me see if it says here. I'll find the link and send it to you, John. Oh, it's called Sketchboard Pro.
Sketchboard Pro. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's sketchboardpro.com.
Oh yeah, Frigga's in there saying Sketchboard. It's awesome. Yeah, even Frigga's recommending it. Okay.
Yeah, I told Dan about it. He ended up buying like 2 of them, one for
sounds
you
like
get various sizes, depending on what iPad you have.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because I don't even know what kind to get. What size to get? What size are you using?
I use the big one, the 12-inch.
The 12-inch. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take note.
Yeah, because bigger is better,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And because I really would prefer to, and that's something else that kind of interests me, is because it's actually like longer top side, like Mobile Studio is longer width-wise. But yeah, it's something that would be closer to page size while I'm drawing on it is also part of the temptation on that as well. Just be able to just draw at full size with it right there in front of me is kind of like the dream. So, and that's what I like too, man. Like, cause I like becoming a digital artist, I'm like, oh man, if only I could, grab a computer and hop on a cruise one day and do my work while I'm sailing around. Like now we can, like, that's what's really cool, man. Very
funny thing happened to me when I was at the convention this past week, and I'm working on a sketch for a guy. So obviously I'm working on Bristol board with markers and pencils. And I'm drawing out this thing, and I took my fingers on the paper and went like this to try and expand it.
Yeah,
and I looked around to see if anybody saw me because I felt so stupid.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, no, it's true. It's usually the undo button, so the Control Z on your keyboard. Like, yeah, I'd go to a convention, I'd be like Z.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, man, it's weird, these habits that we get into, it's interesting.
Yeah.
We're all creatures of habit.
Oh,
That's true.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, gang, if you haven't bagged John's project yet, get out there and do it. There's 26 days left. This looks amazing.
Thank you.
I can't wait to get it. I backed it here at the featured.
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
No worries. The featured perk, because it gets all these extra goodies, including the supplemental. So that's a really great one to get.
Yeah, this project it's fueled on pure ambition, guys. Like it's the want to do an incredible story with incredible art, and again, top of my game stuff. Like, you know, again, the best stuff is ahead of me. It's not behind me, and I really want that to be reflected in this work. Again, it'll probably end up being 5 to 6 volumes, this arc, and you know, just each one will have a satisfactory story within it. But there's a much larger world and elements that I want to kind of unravel over these volumes. So, you know, I'm not trying to just give a disposable thing. This is supposed to be, you know, kick ass in every aspect. And, you know, so we'll see how I do on that.
Well, you just went over 118.
Beautiful. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate that.
Yeah, you guys are doing a good job backing these projects. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, John, we've been on a little over an hour and a half.
Great.
You have a project to put out, so I'm not going to keep you any longer.
I'll probably end up on Ethan's before too long here tonight. So I've been having long days. I've been getting up crack of dawn for fulfillment, and then hitting you know, these shows, especially this first week of Godlike. You know, it's just really important to get out there and be talking to people. So
absolutely
trying to do my best to get the word out about it for this first week. And then, you know, basically it's planting seeds. Even though people may not back right now, over the course of a month, you know, when we come to wrap up that first 30 days, a lot of these people, when they hear about it a third or a fourth time, they'll eventually say, you know what, I like this guy, or I believe this guy, or I want to give this guy an opportunity to make this book happen, and I want to be a part of that. So then they will hopefully go in there and back. So
there's somebody in here who said they're going to be backing it Friday.
Beautiful. So,
yeah. You know,
appreciate
sometimes
that.
It's when the paycheck comes in, you know, but you got to keep it in front of them, keep it going. You know, you can't push it hard enough.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's a great time to be in comics, guys. Like, that's why I'm here. I'm here to, you know, make comic books as best as I can. And I'm very thankful for everyone who's allowed me to do that with Graveyard Shift and now Godlike. And, you know, I want to see more people out here, more creators having tremendous success. And everybody, you know, hopefully expanding. So expanding their audience, expanding their books, their properties. And, you know, I told people, like, I've been listening to like some of these old clips from like Andrew Breitbart and kind of his philosophy, and like, you know, in order to, you know, to win the culture war, or to even have a fighting shot at it, like, if you guys believe we're in a culture war, that it's very important that we create our own IPs and things that aren't just, you know, politically driven, but things that actually can stand on their own merit, and to where everyone becomes interested in them. And then, you know, when you happen to get interviewed one day and people find out you may have conservative beliefs or whatever, then great. So, but also, you know, that goes for everything. So here we are as comic book creators. So what we can do is we can make comic books. We can make really great comic books, hopefully, that aren't meant to divide people, and bring as many people in and convince people, hey guys, there's cool stuff over here too. But also, if people are into film, then it's their job to make studios. And then if people are into music, it's their job to make music, to do as best of a job as you can. And, you know, eventually you start having your own media empire. And that's important. So in order to do that, we have to start building somewhere. So Comicsgate is a place for us to put a flag in the ground and say, hey, we're ready to take a stand right here. We're going to do things our way.
And we have the freedom to do it.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep. All right, my friend. Thank you, everybody who was in the chat today. I appreciate you guys showing up. Hit that like button. Hit that subscription button. Next Wednesday, I have another great guest. The wonderful Bill Sienkiewicz is going to be my guest on the Storytellers next Wednesday. So tune in for that. And tomorrow we'll see you on the Professionals. I believe it's on Arch Channel. So we'll catch you then. Thanks a lot. Have a great night, everybody. Bye-bye.
Night.